Welcome to the final part of this chest series. If this is your first time seeing this series, please make sure to go check out the other two videos. The last video left off with us making the general chest shape. We got everything sized up, matched up, and then we glued it all together. To start this video off, I wanted to focus on the butterfly joints we're going to use throughout the chest. I went into our CNC software and created a simple oval cup shape that we are then going to fill with some resin and cactus skeletons. While those oval cups were getting cut out on the CNC, we turned our attention to the saguaro cactus skeletons. We need to cut the saguaro cactus skeletons down to the rough dimensions to fit inside those oval cups. So over to the table saw we went. I then ripped them down to about 3/8 of an inch thick, trying my hardest to preserve the outside portion of the cactus and not have a piece fly back at me all at the same time. Once the two pieces were cut up and we had what we needed for the actual insides of the cup, we then moved on to the miter saw, where we proceeded to cut those lengths down to about 3 inches so that they would recess into those cups after we sanded the edges of them down to make them round like the ovals. With the ovals now finished and complete on the CNC, we then get to use them as the template for the saguaro cactus skeletons we have now cut down to rough dimensions. So we start by going and tracing onto the cactus skeleton the rough shape of that oval that it's going to inlay into. And then we head to the bandsaw to cut the corners off, and then proceed to the belt sander where we're going to sand the corners down to match the roundness of the ovals they're going to inlay into. And then we repeat this 6 times, trying to preserve the cactus skeleton. The whole idea of this is I kind of wanted it to remind me of what I would see inside the cactus if I were to have this little window into the internals of it. Now that we have all the cactus pieces cut and recessed into the butterfly joint, we now get to start pouring the resin on top of it to make sure they're all locked and secure inside those cups. The reason the resin is kind of a beautiful turquoise greenish color is I'm trying to emulate what a cactus color looks like to me. I love Arizona and I love hiking and I love saguaro cactuses. They're so unique and cool and wicked, and it might be a little bit of Arizona brainwashing that makes me feel this way, but I really wanted to capture that same color that we get to see in those beautiful cactuses in our lovely state. And that's why we went with this color. Now, while those butterfly joints cure overnight, we're going to focus back on the chest and getting the lid perfectly in line with the chest and making sure that they match each other as closely as I can possibly get them. To start this off, we need to cut the chest down to proper dimensions so it's completely square. And then we need to get rid of this lip that the lid has because it's a little bit oversized compared to the chest. So as you saw what I did with the box, I'm going to do with the lid. I just bring it over to the table saw and rip about 1/32 of an inch off the lid to ensure that it's completely in line with the main chest. This, like cutting the chest, is kind of the exact same motions where you run it through, raise the table saw blade, run it through again, and continue that until it's fully cut through the full dimensions of the wood. And now that the lid matches the box, we get to start routing the inside of the box so that it can match the lid as it closes and opens up. I wanted these to kind of fit nice and snug together and almost like two hands joining each other. I want them to interlock, just kind of look professional and feel professional when you open and close this chest. So I routed outside of the chest so that it would have a nice round profile while maintaining a inside lip throughout the top of the box. And then I repeated it on the lid of the box, but routed the inside of the lid so that it would have the lip on the outside. I don't know about you, but this came together really, really, really pretty, and kind of inspired me to keep some surfaces round, some surfaces straight. Overall, I think the utility of it is really nice, all the while looking aesthetically pleasing as well. One thing you don't get to see throughout this routing experience is me burning my hands because this router just gets way too damn hot, and I had to go throw it in the freezer pretty much any time I used it for more than just a pass or two on the lid and the chest top. So with the top of the lid and the top of the chest fully routed, we need to chisel off the corners of the top of the chest just so that the lid can finally fully join the base of the chest. But boy, look at that chest is looking good. Now that the top of the chest and the actual chest bottom is joined together, we can clamp them down and sand everything to where they're perfectly in line with each other for the rest of this build. It's at this moment when I'm looking at this thing, I'm just like, ooh, it's looking good. And it's really, really just inspiring me to keep working. You're almost there, you know? But I also wanted to highlight this tool that I got for my angle grinder. It accepts random orbital sandpaper discs, but put on an angle grinder, so it just has a lot more, I don't know, muscle, RPM, torque, whatever it is. That makes this tool so much just beefier than a regular orbital sander. And holy crap, it saved me so much time. And after a while, I get kind of used to using it. And man, I'm so excited for like more bulk carving, potential art applications for this in the future. If you haven't seen my scrap wood clock #2 video, I recommend going and checking that out, because I kind of make like a water droplet shape in the clock face, and this tool would have been so legit for that application in particular. So I'm only thinking and dreaming about the future with it. But in this application where I'm just trying to take off maybe a 64th of material just to get everything in line, it was a really legit tool, and it got everything up to 100 grit really, really fast. And honestly, I think just due to the sheer RPMs of this, like this tool or the sandpaper just never seemed to get ruined. I think it was just shaking all the dust and resin and etc. off of it that the sandpaper never felt like it clogged up. So like the lifespan of the sandpaper just felt like it lasted longer. And I was able to really hog off a lot of material with just 1 or 2 sheets of sandpaper. And this mesquite wood isn't really soft. It's kind of a harder wood. And I was pretty stoked when I started hacking away at this chest. So now that the chest is sanded to 100 grit everywhere, we get a focus on setting the butterfly joints we cut out on the CNC earlier down into their appropriate positions throughout the chest. This all starts by using the template that we cut out and putting that in its designated spot where there is a crack in the wood, so that this butterfly joint can then be glued and join both those woods and stop them from ever splitting in the future. I kind of want to deviate from my woodworking and kind of rant a little bit about my mistakes that happened with this one process throughout this entire chest build. Every time I went to cut out the appropriate size hole for these butterfly joints, I kept running into a problem with my router, whether that was my bit coming loose because I threw it in the freezer to cool it down, and just due to thermal expansion and shrinkage, I think the coldness really shrunk all the metal down, and thus causing my bit to actually get a little bit loose. And so I ran into a problem there where my bit actually at like full RPMs fell out on me and tore up one of the edges of these butterfly joints, and it just stressed me out. And then another time where I am routing and using the circle on the front and 2 sides to guide me, but on the back of this router there's a flat part, and if you're not careful you might nick that flat part on the template, and you're going to go too far in, thus ruining your recess that this butterfly joint is going to mount into. And all of this, to maybe a non-woodworker's eye, is probably not that serious and doesn't matter, but to someone like me who is just striving to do my best, like at the end of the day, my technique and woodworking skills are not, to any type of quality that I want them to be, and that's why it's important to be doing a project like this. But it was just like deeply frustrating, I guess, which is there's a couple times that I'm not going to play where I'm like really getting mad at myself and just this tool, because it just messed up, or I'm not being patient enough and just moving too quickly. And just fundamentally I just had like a lot of problems with this routing situation, and I learned a lot. And well, frankly, I just hope to get a better router bit and a better router the next time I do anything like this, because it really did kick my butt. And I need to really hone my skills at recessing something like butterfly joints a lot better than what I did in this current project. Now, with that tangent over with, we can actually talk about how awesome this turned out, though. As I mentioned earlier, when I recessed those saguaro and cholla skeletons into those cups, the whole goal of this was to kind of get like an X-ray look, per se, out of these cups. So it would be looking like you can see through the cactus and see the skeleton plus the flesh, etc. And I think the overall look did end up coming together. And really, I think with the addition of the brass bugs on top of these cups is just like a cherry on top, in my opinion. It really was just such a beautiful addition, and I haven't really seen anything like this either. So I'm trying to have fun with it. I'm trying to keep it unique, and also just inspire my children, hopefully in the future, with these little bug shapes. I think of myself as a kid, and I don't think I would have ever got my bio degree if it wasn't for like watching David Attenborough or Blue Planet, or just a lot of those shows. Steve Irwin too. Like, all that stuff was so big in my childhood, and I'm hoping to kind of plant that seed per se in my kids' brain to be fascinated by the natural world. And Arizona and our culture here, where we like to hike and be outdoorsy, and just kind of, if you're truly an obsessive person with the desert, then you deeply appreciate the environment in which Arizona has just so much just diversity and beauty within this beautiful brown green state. And this chest and all these saguaro butterfly joints just really tied that in my opinion. And so let me know what you think. So what you're seeing me do right now is I first started this off by drilling the pilot holes down to the appropriate depth, and all I'm doing right now is every pass I lower the router bit by about 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 inch, give or take, and I'm just following the template, and then I'm making sure all the wood is cut out of that recess that we need, and I'm going until that final depth is met to where that pilot hole was drilled, and then we're done. And then we get to check the fitting of this butterfly joint that we have, and it looks pretty dang good, might I add. So this was just one of the 6 that we're doing. From here we're going to move on to epoxying and laying those all into their appropriate spots. So now focusing on setting these into their actual locations, I started off by sanding them down flush to the surface, just roughly, with the angle grinder and sandpaper attachment. And man, again, I just love that tool. After that, and after they were sanded, I ended up hitting them with some wood glue and glued them in place. And then after the glue was set, I epoxy resined on top of them to make sure that there was an excess of epoxy so that I could sand everything flush and flat again. Again, the goal of this is to try to get a somewhat transparent view, just so you can see some of the saguaro skeleton fade into the background. Not all of it came out the exact way I'm trying to describe it here, but I'm also happy with the ones that are just straight saguaro skeleton. Like, it's kind of rad to have a saguaro skeleton incorporated into a hope chest. I don't know if there's a single hope chest in this world that has a saguaro skeleton incorporated into it, so it's kind of neat. Also, on top of this, you get to see me address a boo-boo that I had on one of these butterfly joints, and I ended up just chiseling a square recess and then gluing a piece of square stock down, hoping to try to fade it in as good as I can. It's not perfect, but again, this is my firstborn's chest, and just like any firstborn child has, they're gonna feel like their parents didn't do enough for them because number 2 and 3 had a better life and got more attention and had the appropriate treatment and situations. And I say this jokingly, but it feels like that's just kind of how life is. You learn, and if you continue to learn, then you should be better to your second and third kid. Thus, their boxes that I'm going to build them each should be better than the first one. And that is the goal in life, in my opinion. So I'm happy I get to do this. But yeah, you get to see me fix this boo-boo. As mentioned earlier, after all the epoxy that we poured on top of all these butterfly joints is fully set, we then get back to sanding it flush again. As you can see, I didn't only pour it over these butterfly joints, but I also loaded up some of these cracks with it as well, just because I actually just love the way this kind of green looks like it's rippling through the wood. It's just kind of a cool touch, in my opinion. Yeah, we're just getting to sanding everything nice and back down to 100 grit and making sure it's flat. From here on out, we are going to talk about some of the hardware and the bugs that we're going to recess onto these butterfly joints, and really we're just getting to finishing this box up, man. It's been just such a journey. I've spent so many mornings on it, whether that's just waiting on some glue to dry or epoxy to dry, or thinking about how I'm going to do the next step. It's been a really long journey, and I'm so excited to wrap this up. And might I add, we have some scrap wood, so you get to see my David Attenborough accent come back, and maybe do another clock in the future. But I'm I'm still kind of thinking about what I want to do next, whether a clock or my dog or just something. Honestly, I'm thinking about it every day. I'm sure the inspiration will come to me, but I definitely need to get on my baby shower stuff that my wife has been begging for me to build. So moving on to the next part. Now that we have everything sanded down, flush and right on surface and in line with each other, where there's no more butterfly joints sticking up or in the way, we can now focus on giving the box a pretty decent sanding. In this case, we're going to go all the way up to 240 here, and it required just a lot of sanding, hand sanding, etc. And yeah, I'm going to just show you a quick clip of it because it's about an hour and a half, give or take, and it's just not really necessary because we already know, like, sanding is just the long, lengthy procedure that gets us to the final product. Now you're looking at my handle mock-ups that I did off camera. I didn't film any of this because it actually was really fast. I just cut a piece of wood down, kind of contoured both sides, and then ripped it down the middle and took it to the belt sander and gave it its handle shape. From there, I transferred the shape of that to the desired location on the chest and routed out a little hole that this would then form like kind of a cave that your hand would slide into, and it felt really comfortable, and honestly was like such a quick job. I'm not even gonna lie, I think it took me like maybe 10-15 minutes and everything worked out smooth. And I think these handles, for how simple they are, they look so good, and they really fit kind of like the overall vibe of this chest, how we kind of have like the straight lines and the rounded lines kind of all playing off of each other. It yeah, just I think tied it all together in my opinion. And it was at this moment when I gotta run these brass rods through these handles to ensure that they're going to stay in place forever, that I kind of got a glimpse into the future and how this is all going to really look. And it's these moments, it's all compounding. It's like the snowball is really rolling down the hill at this point and picking up steam and traction and more snow. You know, it's all piling on itself, and everything is coming together and really turning out cool. And I know not everyone thinks like me, but I'm a pretty visual person. I don't plan anything. Like, this chest has no plans at all. I had the ideas and they've been in my head locked away, and I've been visualizing it. And yeah, it's at this moment where you get to watch all these things kind of come together. That's like just truly deeply exciting. And this handle, just for some reason, it was the shape of the box is done. You know, like this is the shape. This is what it's going to look like. This is the footprint that it will take up. And now we're looking at the accents and all the complementary features of the chest at this point, which are the bugs that are going to sit on these butterfly joints. So, with all that said, let's start drilling all these holes for this brass rod to sit and ensure that these glue joints never break and fail. And let's give everything another quick sanding again. And then we're on to mounting all the brass bugs into their appropriate spots.
Don't worry, everybody in the room notices you. Sit back, relax, the night is early. Let's overdo it. So come on, tell me something that you've already told me.
I wanted to highlight what I did with the brass rods for the butt joints on the sides of the chest. I tried to do kind of the golden ratio idea, where from the top increment on the chest descending, the distance between each rod slowly increases. And I don't know why, I just felt it fitting to do it. I just thought, instead of spacing everything out equally, where there's like maybe a 2 or 3-inch gap in between each rod, I kind of wanted to pay homage to the golden ratio, because it's kind of found in so many different things throughout nature. And cactuses especially, how they grow and just the patterns of the lobes on some cactuses kind of emulate that same ratio that I'm describing here. And if you don't know anything about it, I recommend looking it up. It's kind of fascinating. It has a lot to do with some fractals and just a mathematical equation that kind of emulates a lot of the natural world, and that was kind of the idea. But now that everything is mounted and sanded down, we're going to focus on doing the finishing sanding so that we can get to mounting the hardware. I went to mount the brass clasp on the front, and unfortunately my phone overheated. Sorry, Arizona summer problems, you know. And so if you're wondering why that clip just abruptly ended, just know that's what happened. After that, we went straight to the hinges on the back and focused on mounting those. And these are kind of serving more of a decorative purpose than a hardware purpose. I just wanted the brass color with the floral pattern on them, and these hinges fit the specifications very well, in my opinion. I think they're gorgeous. But on the inside of the chest, we're adding a couple slow release arms that are actually going to serve the purpose of holding the lid really nice and snug. I think those, in conjunction with the hinges on the back, mean this lid is never going anywhere. And so just like the clasp up front, we are going to apply the finish before we actually install any of the hardware. That's just going to ensure that everything is finished and the wood is sealed before I actually mount anything onto the chest. After we get the hinges on, we're going to then focus on the slow release hinges on the inside, where they're going to hopefully prevent the lid from clamping down on anyone's fingers in the future. Unfortunately, me saying that means that they're not actually doing their job for what they're intended for, and I'm probably going to end up buying some new ones here soon and replacing them, because they're just not up to my specifications for what I was hoping to get with this piece of hardware. Next, we're going to start mounting the dragonfly handles on the front of the lid. As I was doing this, I was thinking, I don't think I'll ever even use these, so they're more serving as a pretty accent than a utilitarian purpose. But I don't mind, because dragonflies are gorgeous, and pretty much any reservoir or lake or anywhere you go that has water on it, even some of the green belts, when we get the heavy monsoons, you'll occasionally see these big bright orange dragonflies fly by. So they kind of serve a cool purpose, and I'm just pleased with how they turned out. And here's a reminder that that vinegar solution that we let them sit in a little bit kind of gave them that beautiful green patina that you see on them right now. And so we're on to the last steps, pretty much. We're going to finish the entirety of this box now, and then finally focus on mounting the little brass critters we have in their designated spots.
So at this point we have all the cactus resin cups that need their little bugs to be inserted and locked in place with some more resin. And that's what we're going to focus on now. And that's going to bring us to the end of this video. This chest has kicked my butt, and I've learned a lot, and there's a lot to continue on experiencing and growing from this one project. So thanks for watching, and I hope you love this Hope Chest journey, because it's been a process and a long time, and I think this has been my like the first full from wood planks to furniture build in my entire life to some degree. This chest is awesome though. It looks so good. You guys already know that. It's so pretty. But let's get to epoxying these bugs and wrapping this bad boy up.